Hey everybody, welcome to episode 62 of the Metal Detecting Show podcast. My name is Kieran and I have been metal detecting now for nearly 30 years. This week I want to ask the question, is metal detecting a boring hobby? Hey everybody, before we start I want to thank you for listening to the podcast and I hope you enjoyed the show this week. But before we begin, I want to give you the following information. If you want to give me feedback or interact with the show, please reach out to me on Twitter at DetectingThe or Instagram at The Metal Detecting Podcast. Or if you want to pop me an email to Kieran at themetaldetectingshow.com. And now, if you would like to leave me a voicemail, please do so on speakpipe.com/The Metal Detecting Show. The link will be in the show notes. If you would like to buy me a coffee, you can actually do so now with buymeacoffee.com/metal detecting. And lastly, and most importantly, if you like this content, please don't hesitate to tell your friends and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hey everyone, I hope you had a great weekend detecting and are enjoying some better weather than we are in Ireland. Another washout for me this week, making it the third week in a row where I didn't get out. I can feel my stress levels rising a little with the agitation of not getting out recently. However, this week the weather is supposed to change with record sunshine predicted. However, I predict another weekend of Irish rain. In other news, I will be taking a vacation from the week starting on the 7th of June. So the episode that week will probably be a roundup of the highlights of the last 6 months. Just so you're warned, my Google Alerts alerted me to something new this week. There is a new game coming out on the 3rd of June on stream, but also on Switch in the future called The Magnificent Truffle Pigs. Firstly, I love the name, but what has this to do with metal detecting? Well, it's a game about metal detecting from AMC. This is the first I've heard of it, but AMC released a live action vignette on YouTube today. I'll include it in this week's show notes for you to check out, but it looks interesting to me and I'm looking forward to checking it out. So this week when I told my wife I was planning on discussing whether metal detecting was boring or not, she laughed and offered to write it for me. If I let her do it, I'm sure it would have been a very short episode. This week, I want to ask the question, is metal detecting boring? Yes, that's it for this week. Blah, 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 blah. Buy me a coffee. Blah, blah, blah. Subscribe. Well, to start, why am I asking this question? Well, I have to admit, in preparation for the podcast every week, I trawl through countless videos and articles on the subject. And with the amount of content I process, I find it is very few pieces of content that I read or view that I come away thinking, ooh, that's cool. On social media, it's a constant feed of the same finds presented in the same way over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong, I do it myself, but I can't help but see the pattern occur again and again, making it look boring to an outsider. And if it's starting to bore me, then I can only imagine what it must be like for someone outside the hobby. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some content creators out there that are great. And there are some magazine articles that I've read time and time again, so it's not all boring, but I can see how it can be portrayed as boring. I have to admit, I subscribe to 2 metal detector magazines in Europe, and I do it more out of support. It is very rare that I will read them cover to cover. The first thing I do is look at the ads, then the field tests, and probably then the finds of the month, and by that time I'm gone to sleep, never to return again to finish the magazine later. I'm reminded of a video that Graham of Unearthed did where he stated that metal detectorists used to be pigeonholed in the same bracket as those weird train spotters or amateur astronomers. I have to say, both hobbies I have tried in the past. I lasted one day train spotting till I realised all the trains in Ireland are essentially the same model of GM locomotive, and I completed the Irish locomotion collection in 5 minutes, simply by watching the Cork-Dublin train pass through Newbridge one Sunday afternoon. Now, that is boring. I'm only messing. I'm sure there's more to it than that. Metal detecting was always considered boring by the general populace, but now it's becoming a little cooler and more popular. But I suspect that for every 100 people who try the hobby, it is a very small percentage that continue on after a few hunts. because it is boring to spend hour after hour, day after day, finding nothing of importance. It is a mentally challenging hobby that requires willpower to keep going till you find one more pull tab. For years, I used to focus on modern targets of monetary value like rings and coins on beaches, and because the history side of things didn't really relate to my type of hunting, I thought that it was the boring side of the hobby. But since I've started focusing on the history, it has revived and blossomed the inner geek in me. By the way, do people know that you can be both a nerd and a geek, that they're not the same thing? A nerd is an intelligent but single-minded person obsessed with a non-social hobby or pursuit, while a geek is a person who has excessive enthusiasm for or some expertise about a specialized subject or activity. So in metal detecting parlance, a nerd is the person who you go to for every bit of information on pull tabs and can date every variant. Essentially, someone who has knowledge beyond university level on a certain topic of history, while a geek is the person who can tell you all about discrimination. I think I fall into the geek bucket, but put both of these traits together and you have the uber detectorist, one who is an expert on some aspects of history, knows the ins and outs of a detector intimately, and is a total hit with the ladies or laddies. Swishy woo, not boring at all. Everything about the hobby is weird and boring. We wear army surplus like sad old soldier rejects. We wave about a stick with a plate on the end, listening to the sounds of the earth. We get excited about spending 5 minutes digging a hole and pulling out an old penny that you could buy in better condition from a dealer for a minute fraction of the cost it took to dig it out. To someone on the periphery, metal detecting is as boring and weird as hell. However, if you're in it, it is one of the only hobbies that actually sounds like a Hollywood movie when you describe it. So what are you into? My name is Martin, Kieran Martin, and I like the treasure hunt. Sounds much better than, my name is Kieran Martin, I'm a proficient user of a metal detector. Would you like to see my collection of pull tabs? And maybe that's it. Just like train spotting in an astronomy, geology, or bottle hunting, maybe we are all collectors at heart, collecting information and things, and to the outside, that may be boring and weird or difficult to understand. It is also a lonely hobby, reserved for loners. You may go hunting with a buddy or buddies, but ultimately, once you start and put on your headphones, you're alone, really alone, in your safe bubble with the sound of your detector, in the zone for hours on end. But that only comes after you get over the boring bit of not finding anything. So, is metal detecting boring, weird, and only for loners? Well, it is a weird hobby. It's a weird premise that we try to detect bits of rubbish in the hope of finding something better. We dress weird, we talk weird, and we talk about weird things. But I always say that weird is good. Who wants to be the same as everyone else? Be weird, enjoy your pull tabs. If that's what you enjoy, then weird it up, my friends. Is it for loners? I don't think so. It is a hobby that you do on your own, but that doesn't make you a loner. It's the same as any other hobby that you can do on your own, like fishing or brewing beer. You can do it on your own, but we are only dying to talk about it. And finally, to answer the question, is metal detecting boring? No, to me it isn't. It's the hobby that keeps on giving, and it's all about context. It's a hobby that you can't understand by looking at someone do it on social media and from the outside. It looks very simple, but from the inside it has gold, silver, pirates, cool gadgets, and adventure. It gets you out to the outside. It's great for your mental health and can change your life as long as you keep going for one more pull tab. That's it for this week. I hope you liked this episode of the Metal Detecting Show podcast. Check out our website, www.metaldetectingshow.com, for this episode's show notes. Check out our Patreon page if you want to help the podcast stay alive or just want to buy me a coffee. Actually, if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do so now at buymeacoffee.com/metaldetecting. If you'd like to leave me a voicemail, please do so on speakpipe.com/The Metal Detecting Show. The link will be in the show notes. And if you feel like taking your appreciation to the next level, feel free to leave me a positive review on any podcast directory of your choice. If you like this content and would like more, please don't hesitate to tell your friends, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We will chat to you all again next week. Get out there, eyes down, and happy hunting.